2-minute interlude here. Okay, here we go. Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Bruce McGowan, longtime radio sports personality. I finally got my voice back.
You did. You were just ready for the doctor's chair last week.
Jeez. It's like going on for about 2.5 weeks.
You needed a hot tea and lemon is what you needed.
That's it. And your advice worked. Okay, today's show is going to be really fun because we're going to be welcoming back our friend Al Attles.
Former Warrior coach, and of course he's I'm not sure about this. I'm going to have to ask Al about this, but I think he may be the longest tenured member of any NBA team in perhaps the league history. He's been with the Warriors since 1959 when they were in Philadelphia. How about that?
Is that when they had a square basketball? No.
Well, they didn't have the three-point shot, that's for sure.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, and at every commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question. We're going to give away 3 vacations to the first 3 emails with the correct answer. The vacations are not sponsored by the radio station, but by Lighthouse Resort and Marina. And those vacations are free. Their only request is a $75 cleaning fee to cover the housekeeping expense. Check them out at lighthouseresortandmarina.com. Today's trivia theme is Canadian football. It's a little more interesting than...
I've actually been to a Canadian Football League game.
Really?
Yeah,
They have a big stadium.
It's 110 yards, and they have 12 players on each team. And the field is wider, too.
Okay.
Yeah, and I believe it's only 3 downs. You have to get first down and 3 downs. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, but
it's crazy.
As a spectator, though, it's a little hard to see.
No. It's actually it doesn't look that much different. It's a different kind of a game. There's usually a lot more passing going on. Okay. Yeah, higher scoring
How
too.
big is a soccer field?
That's a good question.
A
soccer field is actually not as long as a football field. It's a little bit shorter, but it's a little wider. It's more like a square, whereas football is more like a rectangle.
Okay, so depending upon where you're sitting, you may or may not be able to see well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that works. All right, so this segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, which is providing mortgage investments that are currently yielding over 8%. In fact, it's 8.14% right now. Secured by Bay Area Real Estate, and it doesn't get any more conservative than that. You'll want to check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101 with Edward Brown and Bruce McGowan, long-term radio sports personality. And when we come back, we're going to introduce our guest, Al Attles, because the Warriors are back in the playoffs, and they're going big time. They dropped those Pelicans.
4 straight.
4 straight.
Yeah.
Okay, stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, so that's our first little tidbit here.
We're ready to bring in Al.
Bring in.
How are you doing today, Al?
Doing well. How's everybody doing? Okay.
Not too bad. I keep saying to myself, I got to come over and say hi to you during the games, but it's just so crowded. I don't want to. Because I've been coming to all the games. I haven't missed a game. I missed the regular season, but I haven't missed any of the playoffs yet.
Okay.
This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, there were a couple of really. Obviously, it would have been good to be in New Orleans for Game 3, but.
Can you hear me okay, Al?
Oh,
yeah, I can hear you. No, that's okay.
You're fine.
My earphone was doing some weird things.
I'm saving the file here, and then we'll go right into it.
All right. Beautiful day here in Marin County.
You bet.
It's great over here, too. So
yeah.
I couldn't believe yesterday how nice.
Yeah, we are lucky. I think we're going to
really are.
have a great spring.
All right, here we go. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Bruce, do you want to introduce our guest?
Yeah, Al Attles is a longtime friend of mine, and of course, for anybody who knows anything about the NBA, Al was drafted by the then Philadelphia Warriors out of a little school out of North Carolina back in 1959. Al played for 12 years in the NBA, then coached the Warriors for another 13 or 14 years, and then worked in the front office for a number of years. Still worked for the Warriors as an ambassador, and he wears many hats for the organization. And Al, you've been involved with the Warriors now since 1959, before they came to the Bay Area. In your wildest dreams, when you were drafted, you probably thought to yourself, "Geez, this is going to be fun. Maybe I can play a couple of years in the NBA." I don't think you ever imagined yourself being with a team for 50 plus years.
Well, I never thought about it. I had accepted a job teaching school in New York, and I was going to play in the Eastern League on weekends and then teach school in New York. And my friend Vince Miller, who played with Wilson High School, I played with in college. What I'll do, I'm going out try out for 1 week, and I'll take the job teaching school in New York. And it never worked out that way, but I'm very, very fortunate to do
And you had so many great players that came through the Warrior organization. You mentioned Wilt Chamberlain. And of course, the guy that I think epitomized the Warrior spirit was Nate Thurmond. And it's interesting, 40 years ago this year, the Warriors won their only West Coast title. It was really kind of a team that came out of nowhere. Nobody expected you to even make the playoffs. You had Rick Barry, you had Nate Thurmond had been traded away for a guy named Clifford Ray, who was a young, very tough physical player with the Chicago Bulls. You had youngsters like rookies like Phil Smith and Jamal Wilkes, then known as Keith Wilkes, and Derek Dickey and Charles Dudley, who were a couple of journeyman players. Did you sense, Al, during preseason that year that you might have something special on your hands?
Well, it would be easy for me to say day one I knew we were going to win the championship. Well, the truth. But the one thing I did know that we did get better as the season went along, and when we got to the playoffs, particularly when we got to the finals with Washington, the last time we played them prior to that series, and they thought that it was going to be a easy series. Realized the next time they played us, that we were a much better basketball team. And as you know, what happened, we beat them in four. So, on certain things, you have to trust what's going on from day one to the end of the season. So we became a much better basketball team.
Yeah, in fact, I had heard from Steve that Steve Kerr, the current coach, that if the team wasn't going to do well this year, they were going to have you suit up again.
Oh, no. If you believe in ghosts, that's where I'm.
Hey, Al, you had a great nickname. Everybody called you the Destroyer. How did you get that nickname anyway?
Well, it started in having Syracuse. Al Bianchi gave me that nickname because contrary to how they play now, there was a struggle every time you went on the floor. And we only had 8 teams in the league, so you played teams quite often. So we played up Syracuse and got to a little scrape up there, and two guys got hurt. I was one of the guys that was still on my team after the Rumble stopped, and Al Bianchi gave me that nickname, and it stuck. But I really actually a doubleheader in New York, and we got into a conversation with the Knicks too. So that's how it started. But Al Bianchi gave me that nickname, but it really wasn't true.
Al is also a guy who was on the floor when Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Nobody's ever going to break that record. And you always like to tell the story about how you and Wilt Chamberlain scored 123 points one day. I love that story.
I do too.
Well, actually, Wilt started that. I didn't start that, but anything the big fella wanted, I would let him.
Yeah.
Well, what was he like as a teammate, as a person? I mean, obviously a great player, but you got to know him personally very well. Of course, players in the NBA, perhaps athletes in the NBA are a little more close than they are in the other sports, since it's a smaller group of people and you travel together, you live together. What was Wilt Chamberlain like?
Absolute best. I can tell stories on those people. You get amazed by it because if you don't know something,
Hey, Al, we kind of lost you again here.
hear me now?
Here we go.
Yeah.
There we go. I just a little.
So it's like if you don't know something and you make up things, that's when they say we're well. For instance, people would tell me how selfish he was, and I would say, well, wait a minute. I played with him, lived with him, and I traveled with him, and you don't know all the nice things he did. And I go through a list of things that he did that people say, I didn't realize he was so nice and could do those things. But I think because he was such a dominant player, they assumed that he was a different person than people that I've ever been around. And unfortunately, people didn't know that. But I can tell stories about him that he did things for me. But
Well, I think it's fun.
Yeah. Al, I think, should we take a quick break here? Why don't we do that?
Yeah, we actually we can't do one.
Oh.
We can't do one yet.
Okay.
So
Al's phone is cutting in and out, so we
wait
call.
a second, let me get another phone.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what
let's do that.
I don't think it's our equipment.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Because I want to ask Al about Curry and Thompson.
Oh yeah. We got to talk about the
players.
current Warriors. So I was going to get on another phone here.
I'll be right with
Yeah, no problem. That's the fun. That's the fun thing about living in today's technologically advanced world. You think that everything works, and then everything's made by human beings, and sometimes things don't work.
Well, usually it's a cell phone.
There we go. That's much better, Al.
This one better?
Yeah, well, that's much better.
Much
There
better,
we
yeah.
go.
There we
We kept fuddling with our equipment, but we were okay. So, I wanted to ask you about the current players, because we watch them on TV, and it's just amazing what Kerr is coach, but what Curry and Thompson are doing. How would you compare? Rick Barry.
You're asking the wrong person. I don't like to compare.
Okay.
I try to give people the credit for what they do now, and try not to compare, because once you start comparing, then that you need to make the people that you compare them with not as quite as good or as friends. I don't think there's a center that you can compare with Will Chamberlain.
Yeah, that I agree with.
There's centers that have won championships. I don't think there are many centers that you can compare with Nate Thurman. So, I like to give people their credit for what they're doing and stay away from comparisons, because when you start comparing, in my mind, you denigrate somebody by saying, these guys are better than those guys.
Okay, fair enough. What are you impressed with what you're seeing?
I think they're doing a terrific job, and I think the coach is doing a terrific job. I haven't been a coach. I know how difficult it is when you have to have 12 to 15 people being paid, and all the outside influences of, fans, everybody, telling you this guy ought to pay more, that guy ought to pay more. And I think Steve's doing a terrific job with his coaches, and the players are doing a great job. And, we all have our fingers crossed and hope that they can continue.
One of the guys that really impresses everybody, and they call him the heart and soul of the team. He's only about 24, 25 years old. Is power forward Draymond Green. What a great job he did against Anthony Davis. Even though Davis scored over 26 points a game, I thought that, or maybe over 30 points a game in the series, the recent series, it just seemed like Draymond Green just put a body in that guy and would not get off of him. I mean,
There's a word that is very, very important in this scenario. It's called teammate. What you do is whatever is necessary to help your team win. That's what Steve has these players doing, and Draymond does a terrific job, because when you look at how people visualize you, they are concerned about how you score, how you do this, how you do that. And, when you do all the things that maybe don't show up in the score sheet, people think, well, how good can that guy be? Well, he makes a terrific thing, I think, with the team, where he dominates certain things defensively, which doesn't show up all the time.
Yeah. Hey, I'll stay with us a minute. We have to cut to a quick commercial break. We want to continue on with you, so let's cut to this break real fast here. Here's a trivia question, okay? Talking Canadian football. How many offensive players are allowed to be in motion at the snap of the ball?
Interesting,
right.
Okay.
First 3 emails with the correct answer, and win that free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Email edward@sportsecon101.com. Talking Canadian football here. How many offensive players are allowed to be in motion at the snap of the ball? Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101 with our guest, Al Attles. Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with this phone.
Well, you know what you can do also, I mean, you know this, is when you edit this down, you can probably cut out the little...
Well, I don't do it. I have to let the boys do it.
Yeah, because I know I've done phone interviews sometimes and it cuts out. You just have to cut that spot out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problems, Al. That kind of stuff happens once in a while. You still with us?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. There we go. All right. So we got off till, what is it, Saturday or Sunday, I guess. We don't play a game till Sunday, huh?
Well, it gives the team a chance to zero in on a certain thing, but from a coaching standpoint.
Yeah, let's cover that in this next segment here.
Okay.
I want to ask you about
You're playing well, you want to continue to play.
Yeah, you don't want too much time off, that's for sure.
But you don't have control over what other teams do, so
Yeah,
that's true.
just focus and continue on.
definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right. Let's ready to go. Right now. All right. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. When we cut to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question about Canadian football. How many offensive players are allowed to be in motion at the snap of the ball?
Boy, I'm gonna guess. Maybe Al has an answer to that one, but I'm gonna guess 4.
You're close.
I know it's more than one.
Yeah, 5.
5. 5 or
They can actually have 5. Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
I played a little football in high school, and I remember you couldn't have too many people running different directions, but I remember when they came in with the Canadian football league, guys were running every direction.
Yeah. Like arena football, they have to do. So, Al, so I'm going to ask you, the Warriors, they swept the Pelicans, and they've had some, they're going to have like a long time off here. What, if you were Steve Kerr, what would you tell the players to keep them loose and, get ready for the next game?
Well, first thing I would tell you is when the coach is done with Steve Kerr, then you'll try to tell him what to do. But I think what the players need to do is just focus on what they have been doing. Now, from a coaching standpoint, what you do is you go back over the film, try to find all the things that maybe need to be corrected and work on those things. Because unfortunately, sometimes players, when they're winning, they tend to think, well, we can just go along like this. But as you get further along into the playoffs, you're going to have to do things a little bit better. And so what happens is you want to cut out all the mistakes that you've been making. Sometimes when you win big, you don't think that you make mistakes. So what you want to do is you want to cut down. But the coach always thinks you make mistakes.
Oh, yeah. You see all the turnovers. Yeah.
Well, maybe that's a good thing that the Warriors were pushed in just about every one of those games with the Pelicans because they never really could coast. I mean, they had a couple of periods there where they looked very impressive. Yeah.
So, sometimes you win, and then, like they won, so many games in a row. The average person, they think, hey, we can just kill them. But what happens is there's close games and other things. So what happens is you want to try to eliminate those mistakes that you made in those games. Get ready for the next series, because the next series has no relationship to the series that you just played.
No question. What impresses you with Steve Kerr and the way he handles the players? Because I know he was a former player. This is his rookie year.
Well, I think the thing that impresses me most is that having been a player, you can look at it differently than just a guy who's just a coach, because you've been there and you understand some things that. And it's not to say coaches who haven't played can't be good, outstanding coaches, but I think Steve does a great job of doing that. But the other thing that I think is very, very important, he has a staff that he trusts. Time you have a staff that you trust, because I don't care how good you are as a coach, there might be some times when you need somebody that kind of tell you that maybe you ought to do this or do that. And there's the old saying, you listen, but you must hear. Sometimes, and I'm not talking about anybody in particular where they listen, but they don't hear. And I think that that's very, very important. I think that's why they have such a great staff.
Well, you can only have so many eyes yourself seeing everything on the court.
Well, that goes on the same thing about listening but not hearing.
It's interesting you mentioned listening, not hearing. That's what my wife always says to me. She says, Bruce, you're listening, but you're not hearing me. I think women do that in general, don't they, Al?
My wife says, you hear me, but you're not listening.
Yeah, oh, really? Okay, well, you can't win. You can't win. That's why we love basketball so much. Pretty simple.
I go back years ago where they didn't have assistant coaches. One coach that's the way it was. Then you got assistant coaches. But some assistant coaches, I'm talking about anybody that I was involved with, never could give any input into what was going on. They usually just kind of keep the stats, how many fouls, that kind of thing. But if you don't trust your assistant coach, you shouldn't have him.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you have an assistant coach, I don't care how good you are as a head coach, there's some things that you miss.
And it's interesting, too, because Steve Kerr has two guys, in particular, Ron Adams, who's been around a long time.
Trust them both.
Yeah, and then, of course, Alvin Gentry, who probably will leave this year and get a coaching job with another team, although he's been such a terrific assistant. It just seems like when you have people like that around you, Al, it just makes life a lot easier. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to push the false pride aside.
I remember situations, and I'm not going to go into specific names, when I was playing, where, like a better word, it's very difficult for the assistant coach. So that if it's told, this guy is like a piece of. I think now the coaches really believe in their assistant coaches, because I don't care how good you are as the head coach, there's some things that you will miss, and you have an assistant coach that can help you with that.
Does this team remind you at all of the team that you had in the sense that It's very selfless. There's smart guys that really like each other, and the coach and the players just seem to be on the same level all the time. Is there kind of a similarity, Al? Because a lot of us older folks who watched your team and covered your team back in the day feel there is a similarity.
Well, that's nice to say, and I believe that there's similarity, but I like to give them credit for what they're doing and do it on their own time, their own feeling of how to coach the team, how to play. But it's very, very important that everybody's on the same page, because if not on the same page, there's no mistakes made that could cost you a series. But I think right now they're in a good place. They're healthy. I just don't know how far they can.
Which team do you think is going to give them the hardest?
But I wish I was that smart.
Yeah.
Everybody's always saying the Spurs because they're.
So the reason I say that,
Yeah.
you're talking to a person who was told by some people and somebody in your business. When we were up 3-0, we ready for game 4 against Washington in March.
This would be the championship series.
Championship series. A writer came up to me from the Bay Area, and he said,
And what did he say? We lost you there for a second now.
Yeah.
3-0.
Wait, can you repeat that? We lost you on that.
So someone told me that they thought that we would be down 3-0.
Oh,
Up 3-0. So I don't get too much into, what others think about what they're doing or not doing, because the players on the floor and the coaches, they believe what they're doing. And so that's the thing that's very, very important about the team. So I really never get caught up in, I think about it. I believe that the players are playing well, the coaches are doing a great job. Hope that we continue.
yeah, it's fun to watch this team, though. And I know a lot of people are finally sort of paying attention to the Warriors outside of the Bay Area, because this may be a year where all the chips just fall right for the Warriors. I mean, you look at the West, even though San Antonio is a champion, they're a little bit older. They're playing a tough series against the Clippers. The Warriors match up well with. Memphis, they match up well with. I think the only team I'm really worried about, again, I don't like to put the cart before the horse, as they say, Al. The team that concerns me is if they do get to the finals, facing LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. That would be a
Kevin
dream.
Love, though, is going to be out. Probably.
Well, yeah, he's got a separated shoulder, so he'll be inhibited. But I mean, that's a team that you have to keep an eye on, huh?
It's very interesting because anyone who has a player's capabilities of LeBron James, there's no telling how far he can go, because he's just that good that he can bring the team along with him. He's added some pieces back there to guard.
Kyrie Irving.
And I'm going to go and say something very trivial. In one game at a time.
Yeah. Hey, I want to get your perspective on this injury with Kevin Love. He says that who's the guy? What was
It was
his name?
Kelly Olynyk, I believe. Yeah, but
It
Boston.
said that he did it on purpose. Now, I'm guessing he kind of said that just sort of out of frustration because he's got the separated shoulder. Because when you look at it, it kind of doesn't look like he did it on purpose.
No, it just looks like a collision to me.
Yeah. Well, did you ever?
I guarantee reputation.
Yeah.
Of him today. He's going to say how sorry he was. And whatever, during the course of the game, he something, and he really don't just mean to injure anybody, but
Yeah.
so he feels badly about it, because nobody ever wants to see any man get hurt. It's just an unfortunate situation. I hope that Kevin comes back soon, because he hates a player to get to this point. Right?
Oh yeah. Kind of losing you a little bit there for some reason, Al.
Hopefully he'll come back.
Did you ever see any players ever really do anything malicious on the court?
I don't think. I think you get frustrated out there. You may do something, but I don't think that anybody really wants to see anybody injured or whatever.
Unless you're Dennis Rodman and you got a cameraman.
Because what happens is, anytime you do something,
another player is going to be seeing that. They're probably going to be gunning for you, right?
Yeah.
Somebody will get you back.
Exactly.
Oh, I remember the championship game, the one that you clinched the title. Mike Reardon was so frustrated with Rick Barry early in the game, he thought maybe if I get him into a fight, I can get him out of the game. And that resulted in you getting ejected one of the few times in your career because you went out there to try to make sure that Rick didn't get into a fight, and you got into a wild slugging match with Wesley Unseld. And that was quite a wild scene out there. I imagine that had to be kind of surreal to watch you guys winning a championship kind of removed from the bench and not being able to coach. That was.
It not bothered me at all because what happened was the first play of the game, Rick went down and take a shot. Mike came out after, and I had heard that later on that they thought they would be up 3-0 rather than down 3-0, so they wanted to get Rick out of the game. Now you don't have to be a genius to figure that out. If Rick is not in the game, you really at a disadvantage. Now without Attles not coaching, it's not much of a disadvantage. So what happened is I knew what they were going to do because I could tell from the first play of the game, and so I got up and as soon as I saw what was happening, I got out on the floor. Now the one thing that bothered me about it was that I wasn't out there to fight anyone. I was out there to try to prevent.
Hey, Al, stay with us. We want to finish that story when we come back. Okay, the station's bugging me for a break here. I want to hear the rest of that story though. Okay, quick question on Canadian football. How many ways are there to score points? All right, stay with us. Email Edward at sportsecon101.com. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Sorry, Al. They give us some hard breaks. Yeah. So what we'll do is
we don't really have to go into the detail. I just say that we try to keep Rick in the ball game, and I wanted to make sure that he was in the ball game. It wasn't important that I was still out there.
Yeah, you were the sacrificial lamb.
Yeah.
But we won the game.
That's right.
That's
And and it was nice for Joe Roberts too, because he got to be, he got his little moment in the sun, which I know you cared a lot about, Joe. You guys were really good friends.
Oh yeah.
Is he still around, by the way?
Oh yeah. He was coaching. He was coaching high school.
I remember that.
It's always been a surprise to me that he never got an opportunity.
Yeah.
Back then it was a little different than it is now.
Well, yeah, no question. All right.
And we lost Bob St. Clair.
I know.
I wonder if we were one of the last.
Did you know Bob St. Clair at all, Al? You probably ran into him at some of the.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you remember, Mr. Hill used to be part owner of the.
Oh, that of course, yeah.
The 49 games.
Yeah.
I wonder if we got his last interview.
Yeah, we also lost the week before that. We lost Art Powell, the Raiders, and J.D. Smith of the 49ers. Who were, yeah, both those guys died the same day, which was really odd.
Yeah, I got to know him really well because he was ahead of me, but he came back to finish his degree when I was.
Oh, that's right. You guys both went to North Carolina A&T.
Right.
Yeah. My first NFL game I ever went to, Al, in 1959 as a little kid, he scored 2 touchdowns, so I'll never forget that.
There you go.
Yeah, I graduated in 1960.
Okay.
But he came back during the summer to get his degree. So that's when I got to know him pretty well.
Okay, I tell you what, Al, let's come back. We'll answer the trivia question. We'll let you finish off your story, and then we'll let you go, okay?
Hey, whatever
Okay.
you want.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, let's finish this up here. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown and Bruce McGowan are here. Second trivia question about Canadian football. How many ways are there to score points?
Well, Al, I'm going to defer to you. What do you think? How many ways do you think they can score points in the Canadian Football League, Al?
How about this? A lot of ways.
That's the answer. A lot of ways.
I was going to say, touchdown, extra point, field goal, safety.
I would say 4.
4 ways.
Okay, 6.
What
you
are
got,
the
you
other?
got the 2-point conversion, and you got the safety, and you got the rouge.
The
Remember
rouge.
the rouge.
So what is the rouge?
Isn't that where if they kick it off and you don't run it back,
The other,
you get 1 point?
is that right?
Something like that.
Oh, interesting.
We'll have to
The
look that one up.
rouge. I like that.
Okay, so we have on the phone Al Attles, who former coach and player
Of the Warriors. Yeah.
And he was finishing up the story about trying to keep Rick Barry in the game in the finals. You're trying to be the sacrificial lamb.
Yeah, well, I guess in case some of our listeners just tuned in, Al had gone out on the floor to prevent Rick from retaliating against Mike Reardon, who had tried to bait him into a fight. I guess Reardon viciously fouled Barry. Barry backed off, and then you came out onto the floor, and all hell broke loose because I guess Wesley Unseld thought you were going to attack Mike Reardon, but that wasn't what you were going out there to do, was it, Al?
No. And Wes and I were very friendly, and what happened was, I guess Mike told him that I would be coming out there to protect Rick. He told him, he said, don't worry about Al, we'll take care of Al. And if you remember
Elvin Hayes?
Elvin Hayes.
Yeah.
He kind of picked me up and carried me over to the side. But, you know, even to this day, you know, see how sorry it was that I got kicked out. I said the only thing that I was concerned about was trying to win the game. And whether I was out there or someone else just bothered me as long as they could take the game. So that was all that counted. If we won the game, and that's all that counted.
Yeah, didn't I hear that you kind of kept peeking around the corner to see how the
Yeah.
team was doing?
Yeah, what happened is like, you know, you're supposed to get away off the floor. Went into the locker room, and they had a patrol guy there, and I kept, you know, coming out and looking down on the field, and I mean on the floor, and then finally when it looked like Rick made those two free throws, that the game was over, and I was happy that the game was over, and it really didn't make any difference to me whether I was there or not, because some people were very upset that I wasn't there for the final spell. But the most important thing was we won the game, and then we were able to win the championship back to there.
And one of the nice little postscripts to that too is Joe Roberts, your assistant, got to be, you know, coaching the team during that final game. You know, maybe what a almost a Cinderella moment for him. Here's this obscure assistant coach, you know, getting to be front and center there for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Well, it always surprised me because, you know, Joe was an excellent coach. He's an outstanding player. He played with Jerry Lucas at Ohio State. He and I came the same year. He was in Syracuse. And it always surprised me that he was never able to get a job elsewhere as head coach because he was really very self-centered.
Right.
Well, it's so good talking to you, Al. I always, you know, I have to say this about Al. I've known Al for many years, and whenever we go over to the Oakland Coliseum Arena, as it's known as Oracle Arena, Al sits in the same spot up with the media cynics, as we like to call them, and watches from his little perch, and just, it's almost like a proud papa watching his boys out there do his thing. I know that you feel that way about your franchise, Al, because
Well, you know, I have to go back a long way, you know, from Philadelphia and then out here. And of course, you know, the man who I give a lot of credit to is Mr. Billy. He was the one that kind of, you know, allowed me to become a coach and some other things.
that's Franklin Miller you're talking about. Yeah.
He was terrific. And the organization's doing a great job now. And you know, I love the way I sit. In fact, I don't sit down in the stand where my wife and my children sit, but I sit up in the stand. And the fans are very, very nice. They come by and we talk. And the only time I have a problem with the fans, we go real well and they ask me what's happening. I tell them I have to flashback here.
Yeah.
It's a good way to stay in everybody's good graces.
All right, Owls. Thank you very much for joining us.
Gentlemen,
All right.
Great talking to you. I will see you at the next home game.
next game. Thank you.
Okay.
You got it. Al, one of the great, really one of the great gentlemen of the NBA. And you think about all the players that he's played against and coached with. You know, it's a who's who. I mean, gosh.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like he has a mean bone in his
No,
body.
he doesn't. He doesn't have a mean bone in his body.
So
He's-
how do you coach people if you don't have a mean bone in
well,
your body?
I think when it came to basketball, he was a tough dude. I mean, we mentioned you know being called a destroyer. He would not back down from a fight. But Al I never heard him once ever badmouth anybody as a coach after games. Certainly not his players, not the other players, not even the officials. And the officials sometimes deserved it.
Oh, bad.
But he was a sweetheart, and you know we miss having guys. I think Steve Kerr is a lot like Al Attles. I think he's very much like he's a true gentleman.
You know, back in Al's time, if you criticized the officials, were there have been any sanctions?
You know, it depends on what you said. It depends on how far you went. And in those days, I think the feeling among players and coaches was let's not try to, you know, let's face it, the media and the teams were pretty much in bed with each other. Now it's almost like they're working at cross purposes. They need each other, but there's always this little tension going on. In those days, I think, and I'm talking about the 1950s and 60s, and even into the 70s when I started, the media was a little, you know, the Howard Cosell era kind of started the whole confrontational thing of, you know, asking players questions that put them on edge. And I don't think Al grew up in that environment, so he was always just naturally an easygoing guy.
Also, you know, eight teams, as he said, that's kind of very
well,
bit.
and also Al, you know, African American player in those days, you know, in the late 50s, they had a quota. You couldn't have any. I mean, it wasn't written, but no teams had any more than 2 players that were African American. He played on a team that had 3, and so that kind of broke the mold. Really.
Interesting. Yeah, I was thinking when you're talking about the media, you know, you go back to like Babe Ruth's time, and you know, they just were the nicest people.
Well, they were. You know, the thing was that in those days you traveled with the team, and actually up until the 1980s, the media traveled with the team. It doesn't happen that way anymore, so there's a separation. And you think about the amount of money that the players make. Now, they don't need the media. They have their tweeting, they have their endorsements. They don't need, in the old days, the players needed the media because the media was a conduit to other opportunities. So,
good point.
yeah.
Good point. Why don't they necessarily travel now? Is it just a cost?
It's just a cost-cutting thing, and most teams travel first class. Most teams have their own planes. You can travel. Actually, I've traveled with the Raiders, but I was working on the team broadcast, so technically I was part of the team. And I've traveled with the Giants, but I was working on the flagship station with the Giants. But most media do not travel with the team; they travel.
Well, it's like Mike Fruco and Dwayne Kuiper. They got rings when the Giants won the series
because they're employed by the team. Yeah,
yeah.
So that's the deal. Yeah.
So they don't send you on a train anymore.
Can you imagine that though? Back in the old days, in the 1920s and 30s, traveling across country, not maybe from coast to coast, but from say Chicago to Philadelphia on a train with a bunch of players, and they're in the club room playing cards, having a drink, and you sit down and chat with them. And it was a much more, casual, kind of informal relationship. It's not like that anymore.
Yeah, even though they're celebrities, I don't know. For some, I guess guys like Babe Ruth were bigger than life, but the rest of them, I don't know. Maybe it was just a little bit too common because when they finished the season, they had to go back into a regular job.
Most of them had regular jobs. Yeah, and even up until the 1970s, I think. It really wasn't until the 80s that the big money started. The superstars, of course, could get by with the salaries they had. But think about it. Willie Mays, at the height of his career, and I think he was in his early 40s by this time. He was past his prime, but his highest salary was $140,000 a year.
Like 1974.
73 or 72, one of his last years. Yeah.
Of course, Andy Messersmith, right? He was.
Andy Messersmith and I think it was Dave Goltz. There were two guys that challenged the. Of course, the reserve clause. Kurt Flood challenged it, but lost. But these guys won, and that's when the money started rolling in. And by the 1990s, it's obscene how much these guys are making. I mean, I'm not knocking them and saying that they don't deserve it, because a lot of people make a lot of money doing other things that maybe aren't so good for society. But still, it's just when I hear players complaining about, I'm not getting paid enough, and the average salary is $4 million, you're getting paid plenty.
Don't you like what Latrell Sprewell said? I got to feed my family.
Yeah, where is Latrell Sprewell these days?
I don't know. He must have like about 800 kids in order to feed that family.
God, yeah.
Not with $100 million.
Boy, what a character he was. I thought you mentioned Latrell Sprewell. Those were the bad old days for the Warriors when they weren't in the playoffs. Every year they missed the playoffs.
Yeah. It's funny because he went to the Knicks, right? That's when he really kind
of his career just went in the toilet after he left the Warriors. I don't know what happened with him. He had a couple of years where he did okay, and then it just I don't know what happened. Maybe he just lost the energy or lost the desire, but whatever. That happens with athletes sometimes, though. You lose that edge, and it just goes away, and you don't know how to get it back. Yeah, you don't see this often in basketball or football because it's time robs you of your skills because of the age thing. But in baseball, you see it sometimes because it is a real skill sport, and you'll see a guy who's in his 30s, all of a sudden he can't throw that curveball anymore. Or look at Lincecum, who's lost a little off his fastball with the Giants. He's having to become a different kind of a pitcher. So it's tough to make that adjustment.
Actually, he started the game, didn't he? A couple nights
ago. Yeah, he did.
2 nights ago.
Yeah.
But he's a lot better in the middle reliever spot.
Well, I think he's making that tough transition as some pitchers have to do from becoming a power pitcher to a finesse pitcher. He's smart enough to do it. He's got a live arm. He's got good health. There's no reason why he can't. He's shown signs that he's able of it to do it.
Well, so as mentally, he
can handle it.
He can accept that role.
I think he can handle it. I think some guys couldn't handle it, but I think he's smart enough and together enough. He's got a good family that I think he'll handle it.
Okay. Well, wasn't Dennis Eckersley a starting pitcher?
He was, and he actually pitched. He pitched a no-hitter with Cleveland.
Okay.
And then he went to Boston. And he pitched very well with them. He had some wild off-field behavior that kind of precipitated him moving around. Then he got to Chicago, and he was pretty good there. And then Chicago got rid of him, and the A's were desperate. They'd lost a guy named Howell, who was their who was their closer. And they plugged him into that spot in 1987, and he just took over. And for the next 7-8 years, he was one of the best.
Yeah.
And it was because of that. They call it the backdoor slider. He had this pitch that was unhittable, except for Kirk Gibson.
Yeah, exactly.
Found out a way to hit that ball in the 1988 World Series.
With one arm and off
Oh,
balance.
my God. I was sitting there in L.A. I was covering that, watching that, and I said to myself, I bet you this guy hits a home run because he was that kind of a player. Sad story about Kirk Gibson. I don't know if you've heard this.
I just heard he got Parkinson's.
Parkinson's disease. Now, you can live with that for a long time, and he can manage probably for a while, but that's debilitating. That's really tough to get. It's not a death sentence by any means, but it's tough.
You know, I still remember one time he's playing third base for the Tigers, and there's a pop fly.
Kirk Gibson was playing third base.
Yeah,
really.
This is back when when they won the World Series.
I never remember him playing third base.
Yeah,
but
I
I always remember him playing right field.
No, this was before.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's, or maybe afterward, because
Okay.
he went to third base then. So he's playing third base, and there's a pop fly, and he's looking for it, he's going for it, and for some reason the umpire is kind of looking up also, and not paying attention. And Kurt runs into the umpire, third base umpire, and the ball, drops.
Right.
And he just rips into this guy.
Oh, the umpire,
Only
yeah.
Kurt Gibson could rip into people.
I'll tell you, one thing about Kirk Gibson, I've dealt with him as a player. You did not want to get on his bad side, and for some reason, I got off on the wrong foot with him years ago, and I don't know what I said or what I did. I think it was actually I was in the clubhouse before a game doing an interview with a guy named Chet Lemon, one of his teammates.
Oh, yeah, I remember. Sure.
Chet Lemon, one of the nicest guys, great defensive center fielder, and during the interview, in the middle of the interview, there was nobody in the locker room. This was well before the game started. All of a sudden, I hear this guy screaming across the room, and I see this guy with wild hair and these wild eyes and a 5 o'clock shadow. And he looks like he just crawled out from underneath a rug or something, and he's yelling at me. And then he leaves, and I said, "What was that all about?" He goes, "Oh, that's just Kirk Gibson. He's one of our rookies. He's a little high strung. Don't let him bother you."
Yeah.
And then after the game, he hit a home run to win the game. I went up to him. He goes, "Get that microphone out of my fucking face,"
Dude.
So
I wonder if Bryce Harper kind of sort of has.
He has a little bit of an edge. Yeah, he's got a little bit of an edge. Hey, that's a clown question, bro. Remember that famous line?
Yeah.
That's a clown question, bro.
All right, we're gonna go to our third and final commercial break. We're talking.
Love those pro athletes.
We're talking Canadian football here. Which city had the first CFL franchise held outside of Canada?
Oh,
So we're
good
talking
question.
Canadian Football League, right?
Right.
Outside of Canada.
Okay.
All right. Email Edward at sportsecon101.com. The answer to that question. Don't touch your dial because we will be right back.
I think I know the answer to that one.
Really?
Yeah.
I
I may know the answer to that.
Don't tell me. Well, so you can surprise me.
Oh, God, I got to go for a hike when I get home. I cannot wake up. I've had this horrible allergy today.
You know what? A lot of people have
Sneezing
had.
and it's all the wind and it's all the pollen is so high. My poor wife, she said she couldn't sleep last night because I was making so much snoring. So I went upstairs and slept on the futon. And cat climbed into bed with me and she was meowing and scratching. It's like,
Oh my gosh.
Not scratching, but just how cats like to knead.
Oh, knead. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought maybe you're making too much noise.
No. It's just like he climbs on my back and he just does this little, it's not.
They purr and they just.
Yeah. It's like, come on, knock it off.
What was he taken away too young as a kitten?
No, cat. Yeah, some kittens just like to do that. It's a comfort thing. Apparently. Yeah. He's funny though. He follows our old dog around the house and rubs up against him all the time and sleeps with him. It's really sweet. And the dog doesn't mind. Dog is 17 though, so why should he kill him?
How old is Cat?
Cat is only 8 months old.
Oh,
just
no,
a
that's
kid.
cute.
Yeah. Do you have any animals? Any pets?
We have an indoor cat.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh gosh, Katie's got to be about 8 years old.
Okay. Prime of life. Yeah, they live a long time. Cats do.
Yeah.
They live longer than dogs.
Yeah, especially inside because they.
Oh yeah, they don't get all those weird bugs that they get outside.
And just it's too many animals.
Yeah, especially where you live up on the hill there. Same with us. I think that's what happened with our cat. She just disappeared one night, never came home. She was 17.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, she was 20. So
Wow.
But she was in pretty good shape. But I think a coyote got her.
Yeah. See, that's what we're kind of afraid of.
Yeah.
For the one that we.
Oh yeah.
All right, you ready?
Okay.
Let's
Yeah.
close this bad boy off. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. When we cut to the third commercial break, we asked this trivia question about Canadian football. Which city had the first CFL franchise held outside of Canada?
I'm going to say Sacramento.
You are correct.
Yeah, the Sacramento Gold Miners.
Very good.
And the only reason I know that is a friend of mine, Larry Kruger, who works at a local station here in town that we work together, was a scout for the Sacramento Gold Miners. And he always used to say, I said, where are the Sacramento Gold Miners playing? He goes, oh, they're a Canadian League team. I said, wait a sec, Canadian League, that's Canada. And he goes, no, we're the first American Canadian League team. I said, why? And he goes, well, don't ask me why, but I got a job there, so I'm not going to complain.
No, exactly. Very good. I'm impressed.
Well, it's just, I remembered Larry's job as a scout, so there you go.
Okay, so we're going to close up here. Just wanted to see if
Close
there's
up
any-
shop.
Close up shop for the day.
Don't slam the doors too hard.
No.
Make sure you move that padlock so that it's they can't figure out the combination.
Well, where do you live? Where you have to worry about that?
Oh,
No, you're.
I'm fine. I'm up on the hill, way far away from everybody.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's our thoughts for the day. The way a team plays as a whole determines its success. You may have the greatest bunch of individual stars in the world, but if they don't play together, the club won't be worth a dime.
Boy, that's true. I mean, that's why I think the Warriors. Getting back to the Warriors, I think they play. They don't have. They have 2 or 3 guys that are pretty good, but they don't have on paper what looks like a championship team. But they play like a championship
Exactly.
team.
It's interesting how this question comes up after
Yeah.
Al.
Yeah.
Babe Ruth said that.
Babe Ruth said that.
Yeah.
Oh
He
wow.
played with a bunch of good guys. I
Boy,
guess.
he did.
Well,
Yeah.
how many players are in the Hall of Fame on that
Yeah.
one? Okay, and former football quarterback Todd Blackledge, remember him?
Oh yeah.
He said the 6 W's: work will win when wishing won't.
I like that one.
Again, the Warriors working hard. Again, everyone seems to come back to the Warriors.
The Warriors.
Just because they're the most exciting.
Or as we call them here in the Bay Area, the Dubs.
The Dubs.
I don't
I've heard that term.
I don't like it
What's
really.
that?
Well, it's short for W for Warriors.
Oh.
Because you can't, everybody calls them the Warriors, but outside the Bay Area, who's heard of? What is Golden State? I mean,
Yeah,
we know.
I know.
But why do
They
they call
used
them?
to be the San Francisco Warriors.
Well, call them the Oakland Warriors then. Why can't you call? I guess it just doesn't have as much cachet.
It doesn't.
And they'll be moving back to San Francisco in a couple
Exactly.
of
I
years.
wonder
So.
if they're going to change the name. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective, giving away more free vacations for answering sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So long.
And that's a wrap.
I'm glad to do that because I'm just hearing Vern say it. So.